Okay, Michelle, there is a truckload to get through here. ARL Commission boss Peter V'landys has revealed the NRL's $420 million war chest to drive expansion as he plots the next offshore project to match the Code's Vegas venture, a second team in New Zealand, as we share with the team at SENZ. As V'landys touched down in Vegas ahead of Sunday's historic NRL doubleheader at Allegiant Stadium, the ARLC chair detailed the financial goldmine to fund a 20-team NRL competition. V'landys says the NRL could play premiership games in America for the next 20 years. Revealed Wayne Bennett will be consulted on expansion and confirmed a second New Zealand team to rival the Warriors is on the agenda. In another landmark moment for the sport, V'landys says a definitive call on fresh expansion will likely be made in the next 6 months, giving the NRL an 18-team league for the first time in 26 years. I'll tell you what, Michelle, I would just love to be in that room. So I know everyone's saying Peter V'landys, and of course he has a major say in it, but there must be a dozen people who get into this room, flesh out ideas, have monetary amounts attached to it to land on, do we go to Vegas? Do we expand? It's heavy stuff, isn't it?
Do you really think there's a room?
Is there a room?
Do you really think it's that serious?
Well, you think it's the Chinese?
Look, I have to say to you, I'm a little bit sort of sceptical. I mean, the second team in New Zealand's been floated for the last 6 or 7 months anyway. When you throw Wayne Bennett's name into something, it gives a bit of credibility.
Yep.
I'm confused. In the last 24 hours, and look, I don't have any interest in, I love what the NRL's trying to do. I'm so passionate about it, but I'm a purist, I'm genuine, and I want to see this game fly and expand. But in the last 24 hours, Joel, we've got NRL America. We've had the next Patrick Mahomes playing in the NRL. We're going to buy over the weekend the English Super League. We're going to steal some of the American viewers in subscriptions and also in wagering, so take some of their dollars in the betting market. The common theme for me across all of this is there's no funding in grassroots here. And so it's a kind of a cart before the horse, and I don't want to be speaking about things that I'm unsure of because I genuinely don't know what sort of money we're going to make out of this venture, because an awful lot of money is being spent. Let's not forget that. Yep. And I understand that they're trying to grow the game, and this is all about, if we get into America, whatever. But what I'm concerned about is the money that should be being put into grassroots here so that we can expand a competition and have a strong and viable and successful 20-team competition. You've got to put the money into grassroots to be able to be making sure the next NRL, the NRLW stars are coming through the system. That concerns me. So, look, I might be totally wrong, and we might be in May going, wow, we made X amount of money when we went overseas and they loved it and this is fantastic. But I'm just a little bit, where are we going with this? Because I've got kids and I know what it takes to put those kids through the system. And I know I'm forever, as a mum, in a representative system, still forking out my own money, making sure my kids, have what they want, have what they need. So for me, I just feel like we should be focusing a little bit more on our own backyard. Yeah,
I hear what you're saying, and a lot of people will say similar. Grassroots, and a lot of people say grassroots. What are we actually fighting for? What is the game not doing at grassroots level that you think they need to do?
All right, well, I'm going to give you an example. I'm not going to name the club, but I know this has happened in recent times with a representative player. Had to lose a bit of weight. A young guy had to lose a bit of weight after being injured.
Not a first-grade player.
Not a first-grade player. I'm talking young, maybe, sort of flag sort of time.
Yep.
Now, in this day and age, a flag player should be able to go to someone at the club, a dietitian, and get some help. No. That parent had to go somewhere and pay for a dietitian to say, hey, this kid needs to lose some weight. Fringy.
I reckon, I'm just being devil's advocate, I reckon a lot of people will push back on those comments and say, well, what about the parents? What's their role in all this?
Well, if they're kids that are still year 11 and 12, so what about that kid doesn't get that attention and he was going to be our next superstar or at least a consistent NRL player, but we'll go and invest in some kid from America who looks like he's great out of college and we'll pull him and pay him big bucks.
I'm not disagreeing. Yeah. I don't know where I stand on it, but it's...
And I also feel that there's so much... bush footy, it's dead. It's dead. My husband's family, Justin, they're from West Wyalong. This footy just isn't the same out there anymore.
I think I was out in Wagga on the weekend, and there was a person who was very high up in the AFL, because that's been the common theme for a long time. Bush footy's dead, bush footy's dead, bush footy's dead. is bush sport under the pump? Is it specific to rugby league? So I said to him,
But my interest isn't in
no,
other sports.
I understand. But I personally think, the problem is bigger in the bush instance than rugby league. It's something as a society that is happening that I think sport full stop in the bush has come off in a major way.
I have to agree with you because there's social media.
Yes.
There's so many other things that have happened. You find a lot of kids go, well, hang on a minute, I've got to have that plan B. So if I break my leg and I've got this apprenticeship, I can't keep playing.
I don't know what the reason is. I don't know what the reason is, but is it a different demographic to what was back in the day? Is it? I don't know, but speaking to contacts out at Wagga, and Wagga's one of those sort of hubs where, famous for cricketers coming through, rugby league players coming through, AFL players coming through and so forth, and they reckon rugby league and AFL are heavily under the pump, and that's a big concern, I reckon.
Sport in general, 100%.
Yep.
I couldn't agree with you more. I've had lots of conversations with, well, what's actually doing out here? What's happened? Why aren't there enough teams? Well, look where I am, the Bungendore Tigers.
Yep.
So that's it's bordering New South Wales, Canberra. My young guy, one of my little ones, a 14-year-old, Blake, was enrolled to play. They had 2 games and they couldn't field enough players. So they had to scrap it.
That is sad, particularly for the kids who are turning up to training and wanting to play and they're not being able to play a game. That is sad. All roads lead to Las Vegas for Cody Walker after joining the Rabbitohs main training group on Wednesday morning. So was some doubt around him. The South Stars spent the past week working alone with the high-performance staff. So here's what David Riccio on Breakfast had to say. Now, he's been tracking the team in San Diego. Here's David Riccio on Breakfast re Cody Walker.
Today was easily his biggest and best session. He only had 2 more sessions to get through, one being one more run in Las Vegas and then a captain's run. And Cody Walker will be suiting up at Allegiant Stadium. From everything I saw today, he'll be there.
Michelle, well, that's good. That's good news for South. You know what my number one concern about the dimensions of this field size is the formation that the Bunnies present. So they present this hot lineup on the left-hand side. This formation where you've got Ilias going through. Out the back, they're going to hit Cody Walker. Cody Walker's got Latrell out there, and it all points to AJ in the corner. AJ's been the top try scorer 4 times in the last 10 years. And I reckon the amount of tries set up off this platform formation would blow you away if you actually sat down and watched all of AJ's tries. The field being 5 metres narrower, I think that will hurt the Bunnies' left edge in a major way.
You're probably right.
I think that's going to test out... And that's what the Blues did. So what they did well with Cody Walker is you've got to give Cody the team. So in days gone by, Cody Walker's had to fit into a system. The last big win for New South Wales, they said, okay, let's not let him fit into us. Let's fit into what he does. He's the number 1 try assist merchant we've seen in maybe ever. Maybe ever, honestly. If we don't have the stats, I don't think, but if there was Cliffy Lyons would clearly be up there. But if there was a try assist column for the life of your career, he would be right up there, Cody Walker. So we'll see how that plays out. The Sydney Roosters have announced the contract extension. This is a good story because there for a while, everyone was thinking that maybe retirement was imminent. Vice-Captain Luke Keary has been extended for an additional year until at least the end of the 2025 season. Here's Keary.
I always said too, I wanted to first see if I wanted to do it. My family, I've got 3 kids, my wife, but then also check in with the club about their plans and the future that they wanted to go. I wanted it all to kind of fit in together and not just do it for the sake of it or leave before I was ready or things like that. So it was good. I took my time with it all. The club were really good through it, and it kind of all just panned out. So I'm happy.
Tell you what, I was one of those.
Yeah.
Very surprised.
Yep.
I thought he's obviously got a very, very tight family, and I thought they'd be quite influential because there was some times there where just as a spectator, let alone knowing Keary, that you were concerned.
Yep.
For his welfare. And I guess it's all that, hysteria around concussion, not knowing, not every bump is a concussion. But yeah, absolutely guilty there. I thought it'd be all over Red Rover.
And it was a
look,
shame.
you have to credit, have to credit the Roosters for the way they have handled all of the concussion situations, all of the head. It's been remarkable. I will give Trent Robinson and the club, the medical staff there, a big shout out because it's been a tough period for them. The unknown.
Yep. 100%. I totally concur with that. 1300 1170. Plenty of listeners want to have their say on call and text. Let's go to up in Arundel, up in the Gold Coast, where Chris is. Hey, Chris.
Hey guys, how you doing?
Good, Chris.
Good
what do you know?
afternoon.
Mate, I was just listening to Michelle talk about the grassroots stuff, and it made me think of something. I mean, Michelle was talking about grassroots being this Jersey flag example, and in my mind, when I think of grassroots, I'm thinking of trying to get kids into the game at 7, 8, 9 years old or whatever. Maybe we actually need to have a discussion about what grassroots level of rugby league are.
Junior football, I should have said, rather than grassroots. And I am talking from those the junior reps all the way down to the under sixes. I applaud the NRL. I think it's fantastic. A lot of people are against this tag, so non-tackle when you're, in the under sixes. They need to respond to what the mums are saying on the sideline. I'm not having my kid exposed to playing rugby league. It's too dangerous, this concussion stuff, or as I say, all the hysteria. It starts then, and it's awesome that they've been able to introduce something like tag, because once they're hooked, once they've been going to the same team, the same environment, understanding, they're not going to pull out at 10 and 11. You sort of got them. You've got them, and when it does change to tackle, well, they're there, aren't they? They're not,
Yeah, numbers-wise, Chris, the NRLW has been a huge gift, because the amount of young girls who weren't formerly a number as far as junior participation goes, we're now getting a stack of those. So that's been a big part of it. Chris, thanks for the call, mate. We appreciate that. 1300 01 1170. Good afternoon, Run Home team from beautiful Cabarita Beach. Michelle, you speak the honest truth while Bears Head is on another junket. Sugar, you need to get on board a country Bears franchise that can take games across New South Wales, Brisbane Eel. Don't hate the idea. I don't think you could play solely out of, say, a Wagga or an Orange or a Dubbo, but you could have a countryside for sure, or the Queensland countryside for that matter, or have both.
Yep.
That you could do the rounds. Maybe you operate out of, say, a Wagga. I don't know, but I do think there's a lot of merit. Or you've got a game in the country every week, every single week.
I'm all for that. I think that's huge.
Every single week there's a game in the country.
They do the mudgy, and they do the bits and pieces throughout the year, but I'd love to say that. I think it'd be fantastic and fair to those people out in the bush.
And just on the grassroots footy too, it's a little bit complicated for a couple of reasons. Now, David Trodden for New South Wales Rugby League, Ben Eichen up there in Queensland, they are pushing the NRL for more money, more piece of the pie, due to what the state of origin brings in financially. So in many cases, the Junior Rugby League is governed by the New South Wales Rugby League or the Queensland Rugby League. So that's where it can be a little bit tricky. Mark's from Sydney. G'day, Mark.
Hey, g'day. How you going?
Good, Marky. What do you got, mate?
Just something that Michelle mentioned, where they're struggling to field teams in those junior leagues. Because I think it's very common everywhere, but maybe it's something in those age groups where they start to play like they do sevens or nines, if you know what I mean, and you've got a few forwards, a couple of backs, and they just start to learn, You might have one kid, he learns to sort of play a second row or centre position or something like that, so at least they're keeping them on the field,
Yep. Hey, Mark, I love that. Absolutely love that. And I'll tell you the reason why is because, and in a world full of collision, the field is less densely populated. So therefore, if you watch the sevens or the nines, the hits are nowhere near as big. So I actually think Mark's got a good point. It ticks off a few boxes. More teams will be filled. Less bigger contact in the lower grades. And then as you get older, that's when you get introduced to the 13-a-side game. I totally agree with that. I don't believe that we need to stick with 13-a-side from the under-12s, 13s and so forth. I think there's a lot of merit in that. Rob from Redhead Beach. G'day, Rob.
Hey, Joel. Hey, buddy.
Good, Rob.
Hey, Michelle.
Hey, how you doing?
A quick one. If they want to do more for the grassroots, kids under 16 should get every game for free, even adult.
They used to give out the school passes, Michelle, didn't they? Those hard passes.
they did.
When I was a kid a long time ago, everyone used to get a footy pass if you played for the school or for a club. But, that's all stopped. I don't know. I think if you're a kid and you want to go, you should be in for free. That way it might get a few of the parents to take the kids.
Yeah, because that's another thing. It is. It's tough to go to the footy, and by the time you've all had a drink and a meat pie or something, it's tough on a lot of families. They
and
can't
the access that Fox and Nine and we get from that, it's you get the beers in the fridge
Yeah.
or your Pepsi in the fridge and your pizza's getting ordered home. And
But because I've grown up in rugby league and I've only really known that, I remember seeing one day two young girls at a racetrack watching Kathy O'Hara on a horse, and I've since been known those little girls and followed them. so into racing from one day going to a Wyong racetrack, being exposed to pink silks.
Yep.
Totally obsessed with female jockeys now and wanting to be, and that's all the kids need the experience. They need to be in and around it to want to be part of it.
Yep. The cost argument's an interesting one because
insurance is where we all fall down, Joel.
Gus did something with Bulldogs, did he, for Regos, kids' Regos?
Yep, Wyong leagues on the Central Coast have done that as well.
Yeah.
There's I think it's $100 or something, like it's something cheap, that they're all making an effort. People out there are realising that it's going to take something to get these kids involved in the game.
Logan says, he says the issue with grassroots funding across all sports, soccer, football is the worst yet. Has the numbers that every other team dreams of. That's a fair point against the price argument. Apparently, registrations and representative costs for soccer is through the roof, apparently. I don't know the numbers myself.
I think it always has been, to be honest with you.
But their numbers are flying. So that would sort of counter the fact that money is a big issue there. I'm really fascinated to know why sport as a whole has dropped off in the country. Roland from Penrith. G'day, Roland.
Hey, Sugar, how are you?
Good, Roland.
Hey.
Adam and Joel Bishop, how are you?
I'm well, thank you.
That's good. Sugar, a couple of years ago, I presented a bit of a discussion on country rugby league and my theories on how I felt it would work. And I figured it seems you've brought the subject up again. If you don't mind, I'll just go through it again if you've got a few minutes.
Well, we've got a minute.
Well, I'll do it as quick as I can. Basically, what I said was that every NRL club should be allocated a group area that's up to them to develop and do with, but then all the juniors and the footballers that come out of there that could go into grade go into a draft system, and what comes out of the draft financially goes back to that NRL club to continue to help them grow that group area. So it becomes a business within itself, and then every year, say the Bulldogs, who I follow, have to go and play a game. If they get a group that happens to be the Wagga area.
Yep.
That's their group. They have to take the Cowboys game, for argument's sake, there, where in Sydney they might get 8,000, 10,000 people to the game. If they take them to their group head office, wherever that ground is in their group head office, Tamworth or wherever, then the locals are going to come because they only get to see 1 or 2 games a year.
Okay, yep, good point, Roland. Thank you for that. And you do make a good point. And it's a bit of field of dreams, so build it and they will come. I'll give you an example. So in Dubbo has always been like a fledgling sort of, not a huge touch football community. The New South Wales touch had moved one of the state cups in recent years to Dubbo. So every year, all these people are descending upon Dubbo for the touch football, and now Dubbo's becoming this thriving club. So being there makes people want to be a part of it. So I do agree with what Roland's saying. If you're there put it this way, well, Penrith have done a great job with Bathurst for many years now.
Yep.
And I've got no doubt that if you surveyed the population of Penrith, or, of Bathurst rather, how many support rugby league, and of those rugby league followers, how many support Penrith Panthers?
Yeah.
It would be through the roof and
huge.
growing every year.
Well, I was actually working out at Penrith at the time when Gus decided that's
Yep.
he was going to make the most of that area. And even the attention and the letters and the requests from the Bathurst area, it increased tenfold. Just through 1 or 2 visits. But,
Yep.
I mean, it's been like over a 10-year period now, and you're 100% right.
And the other thing is that Roland makes a point with his draft situation, which draft's a bit of a tricky one. But at least under what he's proposing, clubs are being rewarded for development. There's no real reward for developing kids at the moment, is there?
No, there's not, but there absolutely should be.
Yes.
Absolutely. I mean, you can see all different clubs having pot shots about. I mean, someone wrote a story the other day about finally the Roosters having a couple of homegrown players being able to string a few together because there's been, that argument for such a long time. But, clubs like Penrith should be rewarded. And I think it should come down to some sort of salary cap thing. I've just we talked before about the Wyong Leagues groups. The Wyong Leagues group, working in conjunction with the Rugby League Central Coast, announced that it'll offer a $100 fee subsidy program for junior rugby league players throughout this year. So these are the sort of things that we need to, But I mean, you compare a Wyong Leagues with a Terrigal or something on the Central Coast, and they're just not. Terrigal's not as strong as Wyong financially. So it's a tough one.
A very tough one. I like a lot of those ideas, rewarding areas for development. I do like the idea of having fewer players, and as parents, if HIA is a concern, we want to try and limit those situation. So bring the numbers down. Bring the numbers down is what I think we could do. And then ultimately, Michelle, say you really celebrated the nines game, and then when you got to the older age, you started to think 13s. What's to say you can't have a nines competition running in conjunction with this? Instead of celebrating the New South Wales Rugby League as we do, put a bigger profile on the nines or take it to different areas, different teams. Have a North Sydney Bears who play in the nines competition but may not play in the NRL. Anyway, there's plenty of ideas and a lot of people smarter than us. Have your say. 1300 01 1170 or text 0457 736 736.